Hey everybody, it is time for the top 8 of the PizzaBox Open historic format. Now, this event's been going on all day, but right now we got the top 8. This event wouldn't be possible without Hollywood Pizza. That's twitch.tv/Hollywood Pizza, as well as for the sponsor, the comic book store. So, yeah, there's a lot of people made this event happen. It's been going on all day. We got mods, we got commentators, we got everything. So don't forget to check it out. Their information will be in the details below. But without further ado, here is the PizzaBox Open top 8.
That said, folks, there's magic about to happen here. We have just popped in to our first official match of the top 8. It's our good friend Tomas up against Benjo W. And boy, oh boy, this is going to be an interesting one. You see that Gigant over there? You know what that means?
Oh, yeah.
This is the other food deck, folks. This is the other one. We've seen, we got to see Natedo and some of those on the Golgari food. This is the one that has both Mayhem Devil and Corvold, folks. This one, if it starts going off, there's none of this, oh, we're going to screw around for 12 turns. No, you're going to die this turn. You're going to die. If it starts doing its thing, this is not a screwing around deck. Admittedly, our good friend Daninja is on creativity and staring down a one-lander.
Yep. I mean, this is an easy mull, in my opinion.
You got hard evidence. You can investigate, right?
Yeah.
No.
And you see, I mean, you see two indomitable creativities in the opening hand. It's like, maybe, kind of, almost. Yeah, I mean, you can almost justify it, but yeah, yeah.
Real quick before the game gets into full swing, I recognize they're already taking their turns, and I should have been a little more quick on the draw. Keep in mind, 2 giveaways per round, folks. Get exclamation point pizza in the chat as soon as they open up. A whole bunch of people have won already. Those people can't win again. So even if you were like, yeah, but I'm unlucky, I never win anything, you might win here. Just enter. It's exclamation point pizza. You can do that from your phone. You could even do that from that cumbersome television thing if you're watching it on TV, which would be a good decision. Like this is high quality entertainment. So you could do that. Exclamation point pizza. Come on, put it in the chat. Similarly, want to say thank you to the comic book store again. I don't think we've done enough of that. These people are seriously ponying up hundreds of dollars for this tournament. We're not paying them, right? They're just giving money up. This is not the old days of yore where comic book stores are just, raking money hand over fist because people don't have anything better to do, right? Like this is, a lot of these stores are having, they're fighting with COVID and all this stuff. They're doing this because they're good people. And they're helping us actively. Help them back. If you're gonna buy cards anyway, help the people who are helping you. Darn it, this is a great thing to be up to. All right, so I'll stop. We'll get back to the game here. We've had a whole bunch of magic already take place. I feel a little bit bad for having said it, but Call and Familiar already in the bin. Witch's Oven already down, as well as a Trail of Crumbs. Benjo is set up.
Yeah,
right.
No question. The food deck is definitely doing what the food deck does. It has come here to do just that. And Daninja was able to hit an expressive iteration off the top of the deck in order to make sure that they hit their 3rd land drop, which was very important. So that Spikefield Hazard being in the mix with the expressive iteration was very important. And they were also able to hit an indomitable creativity there.
All right, so how do you feel about this? Mayhem Devil comes out. There's already a Call and Familiar over there. What do you do about these Anger the Gods?
Yeah, I don't know. They're definitely relevant because, let's be honest, you don't care about the 0/3 crab.
No,
it's incidental.
But what about missing a land drop? Do you really want to get behind the Jund food deck?
Yeah, I think in this situation, I'm probably throwing the expressive iteration.
Okay.
And hoping to hit the land drop. Well, we're gonna hit the land drop.
Mission accomplished. All right. So land is going to happen. That's true. And your colors are pretty much fixed here, right?
Yep.
You've got a deserted beach coming down. That's 3 white. You're going to have access to 4 red, 4 blue. Like colors are no longer a problem, right? And next turn, you're going to have 5 mana. But folks, remember what I was talking about with that Mayhem Devil out?
Yeah,
This
that could
is-
definitely be a problem.
This is a scary time.
Well, and interestingly enough, not only does the Mayhem Devil get additional triggers with each one of the Cauldron loops, but that Fabled Passage in hand is also a permanent that is sacrificed when it's used.
All right.
Yep. So Daninja chooses to block here. I think that's the correct move, especially knowing that you have 2 Anger the Gods in hand.
Oh, crud.
Oof.
That can be a very scary Magic card.
Yep.
All right. So quick. Who's going to win?
At this point, I genuinely don't know, because I think Benjo has done exactly what they wanted to do. So this may be their game 1. But at the same time, this creativity deck can come out of nowhere and do some pretty crazy things. So I'm not counting it out just yet.
Such as, what can you do? What can you get with Indomitable Creativity? For those of you who aren't familiar, you have to destroy tokens, and then the people who own those, or you could destroy things, and then the people who own those things get to go through their deck and find things to replace them. So if you destroy one of your own tokens, let's say, you get to go and find some other thing in your deck, like Sarah's Emissary.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty darn good one to go find. Because
Protection from creatures, anyone?
Yeah, getting protection from creatures negates all combat damage, or prevents all combat damage, and then it would also prevent the Mayhem Devil from being able to target you. So I think that would go a long way. Now, the Cauldron Familiar triggers would still occur.
Yeah. And your life appears to be at 13 right now. That is not the effective life total, I don't think, if Sarah's Emissary threatens to make it to the battlefield.
Right.
I would expect the life total ends up quite a bit lower than that yet. It's still possible Cauldron Familiar could close out the deal.
It's possible.
But what other yeah, okay, so the only hits in the deck are actually Sarah's Emissary. Some folks will run, let's say, Elishnorn, or, you know, some other really, really big, nasty, hurtful thing. Ulamog, or something like that.
Okay.
This is going, Indomitable Creativity gets cast here. Tomas is going to get Sarah's Emissary. And wow, Benjo lets it go. Protection from creatures. The life total stays at 13. No sacrificing happens ahead of time.
Wow. Okay.
So, yeah, oh boy, oops. Benjo let it resolve. Benjo might have believed they could target, or they could wait to see what they get. You know, they were thinking maybe they... Yeah.
And interestingly enough, the Mayhem Devil trigger is not a May ability.
No, it's a must. Yeah. So they've got to target their own stuff.
Ouch, that hurts.
Yeah.
Now, granted, with the Ravenous Squirrel down, they can target the Ravenous Squirrel indefinitely because it'll continue to grow, but
this
it's still problematic.
So remember what I was saying about how sometimes this deck can just do silly things, the Jessica Creativity deck. This is kind of what we're talking about. And if you had asked Benjo for the sorts of cards they wanted to see by turn 5, were we missing any?
I don't think so. They had the Oven, they had Trail of Crumbs, Mayhem Devil, Ravenous Squirrel, Cauldron Familiar. They had it all. Oh, Bind Me the Old Gods, getting rid of it. Oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh. And that's game 1. Okay.
That's game 1.
All right, folks. This is the real deal.
Bind Me the Old Gods, notably an enchantment. The Sarah's Emissary did not give protection from enchantments.
It did not. It did not. And folks, there's only 2 of those in the list. And you should know. The only other removal in the list is Fatal Push. That's it. They're counting on in the main. They're counting on you know, Mayhem Devils and things to ping down the creatures. There were 2 Binding the Old Gods to hit, and there it was. That was likely very well played.
Oh yeah,
from Benjo.
No, that was perfect. And Daninja saw exactly what was going on. Decided to conserve the clock, knowing full well that Sarah's Emissary was their key to victory, and without it, it was going to take maybe a turn or 2, but yeah, let's save the clock. Let's move on to game 2.
Yeah, it's true. It is true. So what do you want? What else do you want here? Because here's one of the Ulamogs I was talking about.
Yeah.
There's some Hullbreaker Horrors, which are good cards. Not likely for this matchup, though, right?
Yeah, I'm thinking they're more for control matchups. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good card, right?
Absolutely.
But, not the sort of thing you want, Valorous Stance gives your creature indestructible, but kills creature toughness 4 or greater. Like, that gets Ravenous Scrolls, I guess? But, like,
yeah.
Is that really a... I don't know. I didn't even see. Did Daninja actually sideboard?
I don't actually. I think he looked at a number of options, and I don't know that he actually made any changes.
I didn't see any changes made there. I think he just resubmitted, which again is reasonable. You saw how close it was. The problem, folks, is Junfu did take game 1, and there are more options in the sideboard. Noxious Grasp, 2 of. Destroy target creature or planeswalker that's blue or green or white. Right? Yep. Sarah's Emissary is your primary win condition. They Benjo just doubled their removal with just those 2 cards alone.
Ouch.
Then
they're just getting some really rough draws off these mulligans. Which you hate to see.
This is 6, right? Or no, this is 5. I'm sorry. Opponent kept 6. Do you really want to go to 4?
Oof.
Can you keep a 1-lander with only Fire Prophecy to help get you more lands later? Oh my gosh.
I mean, I'm not happy about it, but but
what are your chances of winning? Like, okay, so handicap me. What are your chances of winning if this next card isn't a land?
Not good. Oh, and the thought Daninja already flashed the good game. Yeah.
And it isn't a land.
4 lands in hand.
All right. How do you get out of this? What do you do? Is drawing Sarah's Emissary what you wanted to do?
Absolutely not. That was about the last thing I wanted to do right there.
It's the most powerful card in your deck.
That's true. That's a fair point. It's also one of the most expensive. And it's one of the slow lands that they...
All right. But, okay, you got 2. You've got one of each of your colors, right? No Witch's Oven yet.
Right. Well, wow. Yeah, Benjo actually...
I feel like I owe Tomas an apology for that one.
Spoke a little too soon on that one, yeah.
To the top. Or to the hand, I should say. Oh, boy.
Wow.
Man, this is rough. Did get the Raugan Triumph, so that's 3. Anger of the Gods is online.
Yep.
This would be a legendary comeback. But
it's true.
Man, this is so tough. With Trail of Crumbs online, there's no...
Going for the Fire Prophecy here, presumably to put the Sarah's Emissary back in the deck. Yep. Mizzix Mastery with Klothys eating up the graveyard. That's not going to do much for us, I don't think.
No.
And notably, the Prismari command can destroy the Witch's Oven.
Which is really nice.
That's handy.
Yeah. And trying to just kill time here is valuable, right? Like, just delay the game as much as possible, right?
Right, knowing that the food deck is going to... You might struggle against the clock. Yeah.
Well, and just trying to make your land drops and stuff, right? Like,
oh, sure, of course.
Doing whatever you can do to just...
Second Witch's Oven, that's not good.
This is very difficult. Oh, no.
Yeah. Fortunately, there's another land off the top, so that's not...
I mean, okay, and Mizzix Mastery is one of the key cards in your deck.
Mm-hmm.
Man, this is tough. This is really tough. I mean, on a mulligan to 5, opponent turn 1 Thoughtseizes. There's probably not a worse feeling in Magic, you know?
I think that might be accurate. Yeah, like I certainly can't think of one.
So it's, we already know we're behind the 8 ball here. But a Mizzix Mastery casting some really big thing. Maybe.
Maybe.
You know,
Yeah.
we're digging deep here, folks. This is not a likely comeback, okay? But what I do know is that this is where percentage points are gained and lost, right?
Yes.
This is where you turn yourself from a run-of-the-mill average Joe likes Magic enough to be good at it sort of player and into the top 32 in the world. You win some percentage of these games, not a very large percentage, because you can't win a large percentage of these games.
Right. Sure.
But stealing just one or two here and there, like that's how you make these, the leaps from to the next level. So if there's anybody that can do it, Tomas has proven he can do it, right?
This is true.
So
yeah, I'm not counting them out just yet, but it's definitely, it has been a rough ride so far, that's for sure.
How do you take advantage of Mizik's mastery with closest on the battlefield?
I mean, so you have to ultimately get 2 decent targets. Unexpected Windfall could help with that, potentially, but you need to get multiple decent targets in the graveyard or get a target into the graveyard and then cast mastery at the same turn. The likelihood of that happening.
Yeah, that's rough.
That's really rough, yeah.
Oh, man. And especially when you're torn now, right? Like, half of you is saying, I just want to hit my land drops. I just got to be able to cast my spells.
Mm-hmm.
And the other half of you is saying, I need things to cast, right?
Right.
Like that's a tough spot to be in.
Well, and that right there is why you don't want to have to mull down to 5.
I mean,
yeah,
it's true. You heard it here first.
Not a
folks.
position you want to be in for that reason.
Mulliganing to 5 means you're going to be short on cards, okay?
Yes. And when you're short on cards, you're short on options.
This is top level commentary. You know what I mean? Like we've got this one on lockdown. This is the truth. We feel comfortable in spouting. All right.
I like to think I take a lot of my commentary expertise from John Madden. Now the team that gets the most points is going to win the ball game.
That's right. Yeah, it's important to keep control of the fundamentals.
Yeah, exactly.
What does that mean?
You generally want to play well in order to succeed.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh.
All right.
8 life. Facing down a Mayhem Devil and a Clothis. Witch's Oven on board. Call familiar in the bin already.
Tapped. Do you anger the gods here to get rid of the Mayhem Devil?
You have another card? I mean, you unexpected windfall, but you're tapped out, right?
Right.
You die. You literally die.
Right, being on 8 life. Yeah.
Because you're going to take 2 from the Clothis, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, whoa. Not on the end of turn either. Very much respecting. Would you have brought back the Cauldron Familiar after the Anger of the Gods? Because that I can admit that maybe that's the greed in me. Maybe I'm being greedy. But an attack here?
Oh, that could be the difference. Yep. No, that's fair.
And I mean, I know it's not a big deal. And admittedly, I don't think we need to eke out any 1% plays for Benjo. But like, I don't know. That's something, right? I admit it. Oh, Corvold. Yeah. Corvold making an appearance. This is not particularly ideal.
Yeah, and hard evidence if that creativity was still around.
All right, folks. Brand new giveaway coming in. Cephid's got says 5 minutes on that, which likely means we are running out of time. If you want to get to win, you have to jump through a whole bunch of hoops, right?
Oh,
right,
all the hoops. Yeah, it's so difficult. But we know that you can do it, ladies and gentlemen. You need to put your fingers on your keys, on your keyboard or your phone's, keyboard, whatever you're working with, and type !! pizza, PIZZA. We believe you got this. I know it's asking a lot.
Yeah,
it is.
But what could you win?
You could win a code worth 6 Crimson Vow boosters
for typing 6 characters on your keyboard.
Yeah, I'd say that's a pretty good deal.
That's a pretty good deal, folks. ! pizza. Get your stuff into the chat, folks. Daninja going out the honorable way and targeting himself with Prismari Command, recognizing there was no handling that Corvold. Man, that's brutal.
You hate to see it. I mean, that was variance just saying, I'm sorry, dude, you're not winning this one.
Let's go back to game 1. Remember what we were saying?
Mm-hmm.
Got a Sarah's Emissary on board.
Yeah, he
He
got a
has 2
step.
outs
He
in the
did.
entire
He did it.
deck.
He did exactly what his deck was trying to do.
And 2 outs. And boom, you lose game 1. Just like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now what? Your back's up against the wall. We're in top 8. We're not screwing around here. Right? And then you have to mulligan to 5.
Yeah.
Keep a
That
1-lander.
Yeah.
Feels bad, man. Feels bad.
way bad.
But admittedly, that is the game we love. You know,
It's true.
sometimes you're the lawnmower. Sometimes you're the grass. This one just felt a little bit like the grass. You know, you do your best to make sure to eke out every percentage point you can. And you'll note when you're on a mulligan to 5 and then they, and Tomas got hit with a thought seize, he immediately good gamed. Tomas knew his percentage chances, right? He knew the game was over.
Right. Yeah.
He didn't give up.
I've got maybe a 10% chance of coming back into this. Maybe. If
Right.
I'm lucky. Yeah.
Right. But, that's the game. All right. That said, folks, we're not done. There's more magic.
Oh, no. There's more
Ja
magic than we
Kob
had.
and Swistak in their game 2, J-Bob back up against the wall, so to speak, needs to win back-to-back games, but looking pretty darn good here. What is that card? You don't see that one just anywhere.
Yeah. You mean the Archon?
Yeah.
Archon of Sun's
Oh,
Grace?
boy.
That's a heck of a card.
Yeah, folks, that one, 4 mana, 3/4 lifelink, flying. Okay, that's not so bad.
It's pretty good.
Whenever
pretty
you
good.
cast, whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield, you get a 2/2 flyer. That's a real card, and it also gives all those 2/2 flyers lifelink. If the Archon dies, the 2/2s lose lifelink, but a 2/2 flying has real value. This is not a 0/1 token. This is a real attacker.
Absolutely.
Right? So, oh boy, just as we're extolling the virtues, welcome in, folks, bringing in that raid. Sam the Coffee Man, appreciate you.
Absolutely.
And thank you again to everybody who's followed and subbed while we've been gabbing. I know, I apologize. We should probably maybe pay a little closer attention. That's on me. But we appreciate you. We appreciate you a lot. That said, folks, Meathook Massacre in the hand of Swistak, coming off of that Trail of Crumbs. Man, that Trail of Crumbs, that's a real card, isn't it?
Oh, it sure is. No, the Trail of Crumbs is definitely one of the cards that makes that food deck so powerful and so consistent by being able to draw those additional cards. And Jacob is going to be able to get in for 5 damage here in the air. However, that Meathook Massacre, we all know it's coming down. Yeah, Sterling Grove actually is a great card that's on Jacob's side of the field. It actually gives other enchantments you control Shroud, which means that they cannot be targeted by spells or abilities, yours or your opponent's. And then it also has the ability, you can pay 1, sacrifice it, and search your library for any enchantment and put it into your hand.
So you're saying it's like Hexproof?
It's similar to Hexproof, except it's a little less forgiving than Hexproof.
Because you can't target it either.
You can't target it either, exactly.
Makes sense. But that second ability, the first ability is really good. Giving all your stuff Shroud, that's very good. A second ability, though? What are they going to find here? Do you sacrifice the Sterling Grove?
It's a fair question. Yeah. I'm not sure. I mean, let me pull up the deck list real quick.
Yeah. Oh boy. So, okay, folks, keep in mind the Meathook Massacre. Oh boy, yeah, sure enough, Swistak hover on that Meathook Massacre. Thinking about casting it here for X equals,
I'd say 4.
4. Yeah, sure enough. I was gonna say they might consider tapping the Gilded Goose as well to be certain, but that feels like a waste of food here for paranoia's sake alone,
Right.
But sure enough, going to activate Witch's Oven to sacrifice a plant token and a Witch's Oven to sacrifice a Gilded Goose as well. Did you locate the
I did.
deck
I
list
did locate the deck list, and a couple of enchantments come to mind right off the bat. First one that I can't help but notice is Sithis Harvest Hand, which is a legendary enchantment creature that says whenever you cast an enchantment spell, you gain 1 life and draw a card.
Ooh.
That could get
Hold
pretty
on.
dicey. Yeah. There's also Enchantress's Presence, which when it does the same thing for 3, but as an enchantment, so it's a lot harder to deal with. Whereas Sithis is a creature, So it'll be interesting to see what they go for here with the Sterling
Oh,
Grove.
And they sure enough, they do go crack it. And hey,
There's
look at
Enchantress's presence.
that. Calling it out.
All right.
Enchantress's presence makes it to the battlefield. And why? Why would you do that? Why?
Well, at
This
the end
card
of the
doesn't
day-
do anything.
Sure,
Right?
it's a
It just
three.
sits there.
It is a 3-mana do nothing enchantment on the turn it comes down. That's accurate. That's fair. But what it does is it gives you card advantage in the late game, because you'll notice that Jacob has, at this point, more or less run out of gas. They have one card left in hand, and they're really hoping that that's an enchantment, or at least I'm hoping for their sake that it's an enchantment. That way they'll be able to cast it out and draw some additional cards. Because at the end of the day, they need cards in hand in order to build a board presence, because they don't really have it right now.
Sure. So the idea is what's the enchantment density? Like how likely are they to just come up with another enchantment to cast?
Well, not even including the enchantment creatures, they have 21 enchantment cards in the deck. If you do include the enchantment creatures, actually, are all their creatures enchantments? With the exception of the Setessan Champion, they all are. So we're looking at 33 enchantments in the deck.
So they have a greater than 50% chance
Yes.
that any card off the top will replace itself and draw a brand new card because of that 3-mana do nothing enchantment.
That's exactly right.
I don't know. Suddenly that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it?
A little bit, yeah.
Man, I'll admit that is absolutely one of the things that I just love about this game. We talk about playing cards. They are a pillar of the gaming community. You can do so much with playing cards. You can play blackjack, and you can play solitaire, and you can play, poker, and endless games. Pinochle and euchre if you're from the north. Like infinite number of things you can play with those cards. But a king is always a king. What that king does will be different from game to game, but when you draw a king, you know what it does, given in the context of that game. In this game, cards change rules.
Yes.
Is that not insane? Like suddenly an enchantment off the top doesn't say just whatever it says the enchantment does. It also says draw a card on top of it. This fuels so much because Enchantress's presence is changing the rules of Magic. That is wild to me.
I couldn't have said
love
it better.
this game because of that.
That's fantastic. Right? I absolutely love it. No, and you're absolutely right. Well, and speaking of cards that change the rules of the game, in this case, Jacob also has Rest in Peace on the battlefield that came out of their sideboard.
Oh boy, what does Rest in Peace do?
Rest in Peace says when it enters the battlefield, exile all cards from all graveyards. So against a food deck, that's a big deal right away. But if a card or token would be put into a graveyard from anywhere, you exile it instead, which also means not only do cards not go into the graveyard, so you can't access them later, but it also denies death triggers. Because in order for a death trigger to resolve, the creature or the token has to touch the graveyard first. Actually, prior to it being called whenever a creature dies, it was actually called whenever a creature goes to the graveyard from the battlefield, the trigger occurs. And so, yeah, that does deny death triggers as well. And so obviously the cat oven loop just can't happen while Rest in Peace is on the battlefield.
So, and you may note as well, this is a Luris deck.
Mm-hmm.
Luris is a lot less good when it's a 3-mana 3/2 lifelink with no text, right?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, that changes everything about your deck, right?
A little bit. Well, and we're seeing right now Swistak is taking a different approach. He's actually sacrificing the Witch's Ovens to the Ravenous Squirrel because, frankly, a +1/+1 counter on the Ravenous Squirrel is worth more than the Witch's Oven right now. What is
Swistak thinking here? Why would you do that? That's one of the most important cards in your entire deck. Why would you do that?
That's a great question. At this point, it's just not doing, with Rest in Peace down, you can't take advantage of the loop. And so without being able to take advantage of the loop, having redundancy of Witch's Ovens, having 2 of them online is giving you almost no value whatsoever. And so it's literally more valuable to have a +1/+1 counter on the Ravenous Squirrel and be able to attack for 5 this turn rather than 4 than it is.
So Jacob is literally just saying, I need to kill you with Ravenous Squirrel.
I mean, kind of, yeah. At this point, it's a Ravenous Squirrel beatdown is kind of the only option.
So what happens if Jacob draws, let's see here, any one of Calyx Destiny's Hand, Baffling End, there is another one yet, Vanishing Light, Candle Trap, Borrowed Time, or even oh no, yeah, that's a different card. We don't know what they brought in from the sideboard, so we don't know. But there could be as many as another Calyx and another Baffling End as well. Like, what happens if any of those get drawn and Ravenous Scroll goes away?
Well, that puts Swistak in a really dangerous situation, especially because looking at their hand, they're sitting on another Ravenous Squirrel, which could be meaningful. But interestingly enough, they're choosing not to cast it out, which I think is probably for the best here.
Because there are Wrath of Gods in the sideboard?
They're Wrath of God. That's what I was thinking. Yeah, the Wrath of God is in the sideboard and very easily could have come in for this matchup.
I mean, it seems like a reasonable thing to bring in. This deck, the Sacrifice deck does go relatively wide, right?
Right. Ooh, and Masked Vandal being the enchantment and artifact removal in this deck is really hurt by not having anything in the graveyard right now, because that does disable the Masked Vandal's ability. Masked Vandal's a 1/3 for 2 that when it enters, you can exile a creature from your graveyard and destroy target artifact or enchantment, which is exactly what Swistak really wants to do right now and get rid of that Rest in Peace so he has access to his graveyard. Unfortunately, that's a chicken and the egg situation, or, you know, it's a situation where you can't do it because you can't get cards in your graveyard because you don't have cards in your graveyard.
Sure.
So it just doesn't. Yeah. It's a bit of a problem.
Oh boy. This is rough. This is rough. Now, again, admittedly, the impetus is on Ja Kob, right? Currently, as it stands, Swistak is taking down game 3. Or I mean game 2, right?
Yes, no, they do have the advantage on board. They are drawing cards off Trail of Crumbs.
Yeah. Would you say Swistak is in the lead if you were a football commentator?
At this point, yeah, I'd say so. You know, if
oh boy,
on the scoreboard, I'd say that Swistak is definitely in charge of this game. That said, Ja Kob's not. It's not as dire for Ja Kob as it looks. The fact that they are down to 1 card in hand is definitely a problem. But depending on what they top deck, you know, if they top deck one of those Wrath of Gods, assuming that they sideboarded it in, that could be huge here. And it could absolutely turn the tide on this game.
Outland Liberator just came off the top.
Ooh, that's a heck of a card.
And for those of you who are very astute, you may recognize Rest in Peace is the card we've been talking. Oh!
Sterling Grove gives all other enchantments Shroud.
And draws a card. Man, I really wish we knew what that other card in Ja Kob's hand was. I'm thinking it's a land. I think Ja Kob is sandbagging a land just for bluffs and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you dare sacrifice Sterling Grove to find something?
I mean, I don't know.
Because you can still...
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, sure enough. I was going to say, you could activate your creature land.
Yeah, I think as a blocker. I think the other option would be to sacrifice to Sterling Grove, go grab one of those Banishing Lights or Borrowed Times, activate it, get rid of the largest Ravenous Squirrel, and then draw a card and hopefully draw into some more gas.
That you can enter. These tournaments happen 3 times a month. There's one coming up on the 12th. There's one coming up on the 19th as well. You can enter these tournaments for free.
Wait, for free?
I kid you not.
I don't even have to enter exclamation point pizza into the chat?
You could also do that and earn things as well, you know, by winnings. But on top of that, keep in mind, like, when there are a whole bunch of tournament organizers, and I'm not going to name any names, but you run tournaments to make money. You take in, you rent a venue, you do all these things, you take in entry fees, you make money at the end of these tournaments, right? Hollywood Pizza is not doing that, and neither is the comic book store. They are literally just giving us stuff here in the form of entertainment, and it's really nice. If you're going to be buying cards anyway, support the comic book store. They're doing something that's really good, folks. They're doing something that's really good. And if I think I should go so far, or I could go so far as to say you should appreciate it, because holy crud, what they're doing for the Magic community and Magic in a competitive sense as a whole is actually pretty significant. There aren't a lot of other people out here doing this thing, right? Tournament Magic has really been struggling, particularly with COVID. So darn it, they're just giving away money. So on the 12th, on the 19th, sign up. You can play, have a chance of winning money, right? But also, I mean, if you're going to be buying cards, tune in. Like, just go over to their website. Go over to their website. Help them out for helping you out, right? And just it's a really good thing to do. In the meantime, some magic's been taking place, folks. We're back in a little bit of a mirror here. There is a Lurrus deck that is sacrificing things, and a Lurrus deck that's intending to sacrifice things. In the first couple of turns, there was some cards drawn with Village Rites, and there was some removal happening. There was some attacking with a 0/1. You got to love it.
Absolutely. You got to assert dominance sometimes with the 0/1s.
Yeah.
All right, the Meat Massacre's coming down to wiping the board, getting that Lurrus offline, which is definitely meaningful. Meanwhile, Massapo here is sitting with 2 Meat Massacres of their own, which is definitely relevant.
So how do you feel about losing your Lurrus this early in the mirror?
I would be pretty bummed, not going to lie. Yeah, my opponent hasn't even pulled their Lurrus to hand. Mine's already in my graveyard without really any hope of pulling it back out. That feels bad. Yeah, that feels really bad.
I mean, yeah. That's because this is game 1, folks. Like, the world is their oyster. There's nothing definitive happened yet. But darn it, you want to start off on the right foot. And losing your Lurrus this early and just in top deck mode, that feels bad. Admittedly, here comes...
They have their own Meat Massacre.
Yeah, and here comes... oh, boy.
And no reason not to crank up the dial on it.
Yeah. Making sure Ravenous Squirrel goes away as well.
Yep, in case of a deadly dispute, deadly disputing the Lurrus or something of that nature. Oh, but they choose to deadly dispute the Ravenous Squirrel instead.
All right. And Meat Massacre does a little life draining. Folks, strap in. This one could be a bit of a game.
Indeed.
How do the players... and the Village Rites?
My goodness. Okay. But now both Lurruses are offline. So
do they have ways of getting them back?
I don't believe so.
Those are gone, right? Let's see. In the main
list right now, making sure that's accurate, but I believe they are.
Yes. Those cards will not come back from the main, at least. I didn't look at the sideboards. There is, I think, notably on oh boy. This is the one list does have Valentine and Lizette, which is the giving trample thing. And potentially the exiling thing, which both of those very, very relevant, and it is in the main, right? This is not a whatever. And the one list also has some mortality spears that are able to destroy non-land permanents, which could be relevant in the oven on oven violence sort of situation, right?
Absolutely.
All right. Oh boy. Ooh, Shambling Ghast. How about that?
Yep, that's not bad. Yeah, Shambling Ghast is a heck of a card. That was one of the, when it came out, I remember thinking, this is pretty good. And then seeing it in various sacrifice shells across formats, I realized, no, this card is actually pretty great. Dying into a treasure token is a very big deal, not to mention the ability to pick off 1 toughness creatures. It can go a long way.
For sure. And like it's absolutely a card that I overlooked. I would love to say, oh, this is good. The reality of the situation is it got lost in the draft chaff style cards for me. I did not take any notice of this card at all until it was up against me. And then I still underestimated it. And then it beat the pants off of me. And then I was like, oh boy.
Yeah, no, I remember thinking it was decent, but it was the first couple of times that I went up against it, it was really when it dawned on me just how darn good that card is.
For real. Yeah, for sure. It's also notable it does have relevant tribal.
Oh, that's true. As a zombie. Yep.
Yeah. Now it doesn't come up often in standard, but darn it, we're not playing standard here. This is a historic stream, darn you.
Absolutely.
So we're
So what you're saying is I can copy my Shambling Ghast with Necro Duality.
You can, and you should. For the record, I've done it, and it's every bit as good as it feels. Or as it seems it feels. But admittedly, there are other zombies you might want to copy as well, but
sure,
that is one of them.
Nice. I need to tinker with Necro Duality more. That's just an aside. That card is great.
It is great.
All right, so
right.
Massapo is going to scoop this one up, move on to game 2. They drew all their removal, but removal's not really worth much against Cauldron Familiars with 2 ovens online.
Yep, for sure. Now, how do you feel about that? That was clearly a concession because of time.
Yes. There are a lot of things that could have gone right there. You know, the game was far from over, but I can appreciate looking at it and saying like, well, what's more important? The win in game 1 that I may or may not get, you know, the 30-40% chance game 1 win that I've got here, or maybe even 25% or something like that, versus an additional 4 or 5 minutes on my clock.
Sure.
You know, and I can see the value proposition there. That makes logical sense. I can appreciate that, especially in a mirror like this, where we know the deck can be time consuming, you know, and so I think the concession in light of those factors makes sense. Yeah. How about you? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, and I would agree, because I would also say that they also know what their opponent's playing, right? And they know what cards are in their opponent's deck. And I would say that their opponent was better set up for the mirror. Swistak is the one with the Lizette. Remember, we saw that crashing into a trample and just changing everybody's fortunes and all that. But they also have the 2 mortality spears as well. So Massapo here was not as well set up for the mirror. So I think, considering they already knew they were way behind, yeah, I can absolutely respect them saying, I don't want to take 5 or 8 more minutes off the clock, or even longer potentially, to just spew off that time and still only have whatever. What do you think at that point? A 10 or 15% chance to win when you know your opponent's already set up better for the mirror anyway?
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah,
go to sideboards, move on to game 2.
Yeah. So, you know, this is fine. This is fine. One notable thing, folks, many of you are likely already familiar, but I will point out, Mealing Massacre, very, very good in the mirror, right? Doubling up your triggers. But keep in mind, folks, it is legendary. They don't stack up. You can only have one on the battlefield at once, right? And that it matters, because your opponent's going to find one as well, sooner or later, right? So at some point, they're just going to cancel each other out.
Right.
That gives a huge advantage, though, to someone who has Lizette on the battlefield. The fact that you gain a life and your opponent also gains a life means, and you lose a life and your opponent also loses a life, means that nothing happened. There was no life total exchanged. As far as at the end of it, the life totals are the same. But if your opponent's putting in counters on their entire team and giving them trample, suddenly that does change things. So keep in mind, it is very good, but it is not the end all be all. Holy crud. How do you feel about Outland Liberator?
I think Outland Liberator is staring down that Witch's Oven, and that fatal push by Swistak was huge, because otherwise that Witch's Oven was going to go bye-bye here very soon. And that was going to be, I think Outland Liberator is a fantastic card. Now, the fact that there's another one in Massapo's hand is definitely to their benefit here. Now, the question is, do you throw the Outland Liberator and get rid of the Witch's Oven, or do you meat hook here before that Ravenous Squirrel has a chance to get out of hand?
For sure. Great question. Keep in mind, folks, there is another giveaway, folks. Exclamation point pizza in the chat. It's not hard. It's really
Shield mode activated.
Yep.
Exclamation point pizza, get in there.
Yep. And we're, folks, you got to know. Nobody here is getting anything for you entering. This is not we don't benefit in any way for this. But you do. This is just great. This is just great. You get free stuff. You just win. So exclamation point pizza in the chat. Get yourself some cards. There's 6 packs on the line.
That's a lot of packs.
Yeah. For real. Get yourself some wins.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, inconvenient. Outland Liberator, not flipped yet. So it must be sacrificed. I was going to say, do you think maybe you just Luris to hand to get the attack? And sure enough, I think Massapo agrees.
Yep. That gives them something to do on their turn to get some value without casting any spells, which transitions it to nighttime.
And what does Frenzied Trap Breaker do? that the Outland Liberator doesn't?
That's a
You
great
might
question.
ask.
Well, whenever it attacks, you destroy target artifact or enchantment defending player controls. So you actually get the destruction on an attack. So without
Yeah.
having to sacrifice the Liberator themselves, whereas the Liberator, you have to pay one sacrifice to destroy target artifact or enchantment. Now, notably with the Frenzy Trapbreaker, you still have that ability. You have that option. So if Swistak does target it with removal, which they're doing, there is the
Exhibit
ability
A.
to sacrifice it to get rid of that Witch's Oven.
So let me ask you another question. If Massapo had taken a different direction and decided to cast spells, because we're playing Magic,
Right.
during their turn and not flip, do you think Swistak would have been forced into firing off their removal on it?
I don't think so. Yeah, I think Swistak probably would have held that Feed the Swarm.
So, man, Swistak, it feels like Swistak kind of got beat up there just a little bit, right?
A little bit. I don't think they feel good about that exchange.
Yeah, and admittedly, this is not game. We're not discussing that.
Oh, hardly.
This is,
Yeah,
there's a
this
lot
is
of
still
Magic yet to
anybody's
come on
game.
this. But like, that was a really strong play when they force you to target their creature because it's going to mess up your life if they don't. And then you still get to sacrifice in response, and the oven still goes away. Woo!
Yeah, no, that hurts.
Rough.
And now Luris is going to be bringing back the Outland Liberator. Now, notably, there were 2 spells cast this turn, so this is going to become daytime.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right.
Oh boy. Okay. So
And
folks,
Swistak is missing that oven right about now. That's for sure.
oh man, can you imagine? And notably, folks, yes, it's true. Swistak still has the Luris, but it's not in the hand. That's still in the
Right.
companion zone. 3 mana is a very real amount of mana at this stage of the game. So this, I've got to assume this is probably a 2 or X equals 2 Meat Hug Massacre, right? I would think. Otherwise, if it's not, I think Swistak is starting to fall way behind, right?
Yeah. No, I think you're right.
Oh my goodness, it's not. They're
Ooh.
sacrificing. Oh my goodness. All right.
Sacrificing the goose, going to
Well,
dig.
okay, I guess they still could because they do get a treasure. Okay,
There it is.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yep, sure. They just also had the Deadly Dispute. Okay, well, okay.
Well, they may not have had the meat hook in hand. They may have had to dig for it with the Deadly Dispute. But yeah,
That's fair too. Playing to their outs. We don't know what was in hand.
we don't know. Yeah.
And Swistak, we have seen Swistak play earlier today. And I can say without equivocation that Swistak has put together several really good performances.
Absolutely.
So I'm not surprised to see, some, good plays come out of there. But man, everybody's in top deck mode. Who gets there first?
That's a great question.
Oh boy.
I
You know
think
what we
Massapo
don't
has
see on
the
either side of the
slight
battlefield?
advantage because they have the oven.
Do you know what we don't
But
see on?
Swistak still has the lures. That's a tough one. I think yeah.
We've got no. Oh my gosh, for real? I was gonna
You were
say
just about to
we've
say
got
we
no
don't have any
Trail
Trail of Crumbs.
and here it is. I'm sorry, Massapo. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to call it right to your opponent's hand. I'm sorry.
My
Folks,
goodness.
enter the giveaway. There's like not very many people entered right now. Like your chances of winning are actually pretty darned good. Just exclamation point
Absolutely.
pizza. I know some of you are probably watching on TV and stuff because it's like, and it's inconvenient to type when you got to pull up the TV keyboard and use your remote. Like, I know it's a pain. Exclamation point pizza is 6 characters, and darn it, you can win 6 packs. So,
Absolutely. All right, now there's the Cauldron Familiar Witch's Oven loop.
Ooh.
Meanwhile,
So,
Swistak has the Trail of Crumbs, though, so I think they have the ability to rebuild here pretty quickly.
So, how many turns would you give Massapo to get their own Trail of Crumbs? Because
Ooh.
personally, for me, yes, having Witch's Oven and Cauldron Familiar together gives Massapo an out, gives them a path to victory and all that stuff. I would say just the presence of Trail of Crumbs means Swistak is kind of quite a bit ahead. I don't know that I would say like way ahead because they have a limited amount of food, but I would say quite a bit ahead. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I think Trail of Crumbs does provide that much advantage. Yeah, absolutely.
Whew. All right. Well, looks like Swistak is considering the Lurrus. All right. And sure enough, it is. What do you get out of your bin?
That's a good question. I'm contemplating the Ravenous Squirrel here, not knowing. I mean, because here we have information on Massapo's hand, knowing full well the Meat Hook Massacre's here. But they elect for the Gilded Goose to stock up on more food. I can appreciate that.
Yeah. I see. That's kind of where I was thinking was the Gilded Goose, because it replaces itself immediately with the Trail of Crumbs, right? You just get the food. You can't, admittedly, you can't actually replace it immediately because you don't have the mana to both crack and pay. But the fact that it exists, the food, means eventually you're going to get your choice of one of two cards and take a permanent card from among them, right?
Right.
So, man. Yeah. Interesting. Going for it. X equals 4. Not
X
fooling
equals 4.
around.
Why not?
I mean, I'm not spending this mana anyway. Oh boy.
Use it or lose it, right?
Yeah. That's right. That is right. All right. What do you do, Swistak? All right. Now, out of the sideboard, was there anything to get these Lurruses back, by the way? Did we establish anything out of the sideboard?
I don't believe there
I don't.
was.
Oh, Command the Dread Horde.
Make sure I'm not.
I don't think that's likely to come in, but it might. Actually, that might not be a bad card in the matchup. Having not played the mirror enough, like, I can't say for sure. But, like, you know, you often end up with a bunch of life to spare.
Right.
And everybody's graveyards are hanging out. It's not like you're exiling their bin, you know, very much. Some Soul Guide Lanterns on each side. But that doesn't get things back. That gets them gone. No, like, okay, so the Lurruses are gone. That's it. There isn't anything in the 75.
You know, in Massapo's list, there is a one of Command the Dread Horde in the sideboard.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it. That's the only recursion. Actually, that's an interesting sideboard card.
I mean,
yeah.
Presumably that is against graveyard reanimate decks, right?
Right, that makes sense. So, yeah, somebody that is putting Sarah's Emissary or something like that in their own graveyard, being able to pull it back out, you know, on your side. Yeah, that makes sense.
But it could be okay here, I guess. You know, again, I don't know. I haven't played the mirror enough. Folks,
Yeah,
the Meat Hook Massacres on each side, triggering, doing things. But, and this Trail of Crumbs, remember, it was top deck mode for everybody. But, darn it. One of these folks is drawing a bunch of extra cards now.
Yep. Yeah, when you're in top deck mode and you're drawing 2 or 3 additional cards a turn, that goes a long way.
Yeah, that's rough. That is rough. Oh boy. All right, folks. Well, there's the oven. So remember, we talked, folks, about how the fact that Massapo had a Witch's Oven and a Cauldron Familiar, that gave them a path to victory, gave them outs and stuff. Swistak has found their own oven.
Mm-hmm.
They still have a Trail of Crumbs in play. Handicap it. Give me a percentage chance. How does Massapo get out of this?
I mean, they have to top deck their own Trail of Crumbs here.
Is it too late? Swistak has 6 cards in hand.
I think it might be too late. I mean, not only that, but they're also and a second Witch's Oven. Oof.
That's rough. There's got to be a path. So what if, hear me out, Mortality Spear comes off the top.
Okay.
So you can hit the Trail of Crumbs.
All right, that's good, but yeah, is it too late is the question.
I mean, that's the question, right? Is it too late for Trail of Crumbs to go away? Because obviously, at some point, Massapo's going to get their own Trail of Crumbs, and, you know, there's still enough life to, you know, hopefully do something, right? But, you know,
I mean, if it's not if it's Trail of Crumbs off the top, I'd say Massapo has, I was about to say maybe a 20% chance, maybe like 15-20% chance of getting back into this thing. You know, if they are really lucky with their top decks. That Overgrown Tomb off the top, however, yikes, that's a problem.
Oh boy. Man, this is tough. This is tough because remember, Swistak's been the one drawing multiple cards a turn, and they're still only on 7 lands, and Massapo's sandbagging 2 lands and has 8 in play already. This is rough. Do you agree with not playing the land?
I can appreciate that. Bluffing some kind of instant speed removal. Yeah, I can appreciate that.
And what about for whatever creature lands and stuff? Being able to activate a creature land and cast a spell in your turn or something. Do you think that there is a case to be made for that, or do you think no? In this case, I need a miracle, so I'm going to try and play in my opponent's head is more valuable.
That's a really good question. I know with the way that I play, I probably would have just slammed the land because I don't think that far ahead. If I'm honest.
Sure.
I'll call it what it is. I'll own up to that. But at the end of the day, like knowing that this is an open deck list tournament, what do I want them to believe I have?
Sure.
It's not something that you got to take into account when you're making that decision. So to be honest, I think, it might be more beneficial to play the land out, and you'd be able to play the Overgrown Tomb tapped without having to shock it in.
Well, or the Blooming Marsh. That's always a tapped land now, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, you'd have an opportunity to play these tapped lands, and not really lose anything by them coming into play tapped. In the
Off
hopes
the top
of
comes Mask Vandal.
Yeah.
And then the Witch's Oven goes away. Is there a path? Is the most direct line to victory? Like, is there one that involves playing Magic, or are we down to ISP? Disconnections or something. Like,
Ravenous Squirrel being both a sacrifice payoff and a sacrifice outlet is very important, but that Fatal Push is gonna do it. I think we may have reached the point where drawing nothing but lands. Oh no. Oh, that hurts. Yeah,
folks.
and Massapo sending in the Crying Hedron. That's fair.
That was rough. Okay, buddy. So keep in mind, folks, the other thing about that Ravenous Squirrel, besides getting to be very, very, very large, keep in mind, it also, when you sacrifice a thing, you get to gain a life and draw a card. And then it gets 1/1 counters whenever anything gets sacrificed, which is pretty awesome. But the fact that you draw a card, that could have been a way to draw into things.
Yeah, no, it certainly could. And unfortunately, they drew into more land, which is definitely problematic. Here comes the Hive of the Eye Tyrant alongside the Called Familiar and the Masked Vandal. It's not a lot of damage, but it's going to add up here.
Man, okay. So, come on, man. Give me something. Like, what do you...
I mean, Hive of the Eye Tyrant a couple of turns ago would have been okay, but now I feel like it's just too late.
Come on, Shuffler. You could have given us something to commentate on. What do we talk about when your board is 10 lands and a Meat Hook Massacre?
Yeah. More savings. That's fair.
Man, this is brutal. And admittedly, this is one of those times where we were talking earlier. Like, I personally believe that the mana system in Magic is one of the things that makes it great. And admittedly, there are other games out there. Maybe one of them beginning with an H, where you get mana every turn, crystals and things like that. That it's always a very static amount, right? So it takes variables out of the game. That's true, and that does happen, and that is, if sometimes, a good thing.
Sure.
But it also takes away an immense amount of customization. I have personally built decks with as many as 33 lands in them.
Right.
There aren't very many circumstances for that, but I have done it. I've done that thing. I've also built decks with as few as 14 lands in them, if you can believe that. There aren't very many situations for that. But they do happen. If you take away the mana system and give me a very consistent crystal-y thing or something like that, you lose some of what makes Magic, right? And you gotta know that nothing in life is free, darn it, right? Everything
Right.
comes at a cost. Sometimes the cost is actually a positive thing and you're happy to pay it. Ha 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 ha.
Absolutely.
Other times the cost is great. Sometimes it's not even worth the cost to pay and you avoid it. In this case, I think the game is great. And the magic system, or the mana system, I believe, is one of the things that also helps that along. It can be difficult in situations like this. When you're sitting in Massapo's seat, and we've all been there, saying, just give me something. Just give me something. And there's a land. Please, just one time, and it's a land. My last one time. It's the only one I've got left in my wallet, and it's a Phyrexian tower, and you've got no creatures on board, and it feels bad.
Sure.
And I'm sure Massapo's there. But this is one of those times when you've also got to count your blessings for the fact that this is one of those ways of introducing variance to the game that doesn't make it just become a circus. On the 12th and the 19th, 2 more times this month, because it happens 3 times every month, there's going to be more tournaments. Check out MTG Melee for more details. There are different formats going on for the different tournaments and stuff, so definitely check that out. Hollywood Pizza's got all the details over there. We're not going to go into too much detail right now, but darn it, it's at your fingertips. Go click. Do internet things, right?
Yeah, and also please don't hesitate to follow Hollywood Pizza on Twitter as well as the PizzaBox on Twitter. That's another great place to get that information, to get the up-to-date scoop on those tournaments as they come up.
Ooh.
All right.
Oh boy, folks. Holy crud. Here we go. There is the match is underway. There are predictions up, ladies and gentlemen. What are you going to use these points for? Channel points you get, folks, for free. They just appear in your account for watching the stream. You get them, and you can't redeem them for money or anything like that. You got to spend them somehow. Now's the time.
Absolutely.
The prediction is live. Who will win the historic PizzaBox Open? Swistak on Golgari Food or nonismagic on Orzhov Auras? Get your predictions in. Turn 1. Inquisition of Kozilek after the Ravenous Squirrel came down from Swistak. If you're on nonismagic side, seeing IOK come out, what do you take here?
That's a good question. I mean, Trail of Crumbs is like public enemy number 1 here. You got to get rid of that. I mean, but at the same time, Meat Hook Massacre is just sitting there being a Meat Hook Massacre, which is also looking pretty tempting.
Yeah, but how do you feel about 1 mana 25/25s?
I mean, I don't love them if they're swinging at me.
I mean, sure, but like I think there were a whole bunch of targets in that hand that were pretty tempting, right?
Sure, absolutely. I think Trail of Crumbs was the right one though, because to the point that you were making earlier, the idea that this game might come down to card advantage, and I think the Trail of Crumbs is what provides that for the food deck, and so being able to kind of get away from that early on is really important. Also, the Hateful Eidolon here is a 1 card draw engine. Not to mention they also have the Core Spirit Dancer and SRAM, of course. So, you know, if they can follow this Hateful Eidolon up with, say, a something like a Deadweight, you know, on one of those Ravenous Squirrels, that would be pretty fantastic.
Now, what does Hateful Eidolon do?
So Hateful Eidolon, I'm gonna pull it up so I want to make sure I get it right. It's a card that I've actually played with a fair amount. What it does is whenever I wanted to make sure I got the wording just dead on. Whenever an enchanted creature dies, draw a card for each aura you controlled that was attached to it. So if you use an aura that's removal like a Deadweight and it kills the creature, you had 1 aura attached to it, so you draw a card.
Sure. Yeah, that's terrifying.
A little bit, and it's a 1/2 lifelinker to boot. And so by putting a Kaya's Ghost Form on the Hateful Eidolon, they can block here. And now if Swistak chooses to use the Shambling Ghast ability to kill the Hateful Eidolon comes back because of Kaya's Ghost Form, and they draw a card because a creature died that had an aura attached to it that nonismagic controlled.
But how do you deal with Kaya's Ghost Form? That card's going to get real annoying.
Oh, big time.
As soon as
especially
Lurrus
when Lurrus
shows
can
up.
recur it. Yeah.
Yeah. Because, yeah, folks, keep in mind, Lurrus doesn't say you can cast a creature 2 CMC or less from your bin. It says a permanent. Non-land permanent. You may cast a permanent card. So this Kaya's Ghost Form can just keep coming back every turn. As a matter of fact, it going to the bin is scarier than it being on the battlefield in a lot of ways, because then it can go right on Lurrus itself. How do you get rid of Lurrus if it just keeps coming back? Lurrus gets to keep buying this thing back and drawing cards.
Yeah, and then the moment it's on Luris, you effectively have to remove Luris twice in a single turn in order to get her off the field. It's pretty brutal.
For sure.
Yeah, so Kaya's Ghost Form is definitely an all-star in that deck. It is capable of doing a lot of great things. Now, in order for that to really be threatening, they need to get Luris online, which they're still a little ways away from at this point. And those Ravenous Squirrels are getting in for some damage, and that's definitely a problem that Nonismagic needs to do something about.
There have been a few 1-mana 2/2s in Magic's history.
Indeed.
And historically speaking, they've all done work. Right?
I think that's fair to say. Yeah.
I don't think there's ever been a 1-mana 2/2 that hasn't seen some amount of play. Even Isamaru,
yes,
the legendary.
Yeah, that's the first one that came to mind. Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. Well, and Goblin
Hondo Kanda, that card is great. Yeah, it's just a 2/2 for 1 that's legendary.
But they've all seen play. But here we are, right? And they're doing work currently. This is scary. This is threatening. Just sacrificing a treasure, which can be sacrificed for even no reason if you want, just literally add mana and let the mana go away. That will grow these into 1-mana 3/3s.
Right.
I'm sorry. That's scary.
Right? Oh, big time. Yeah, absolutely. No, at this point in the game, even with the setup that Nonismagic is able to put together, which is not a bad place to be at this stage in the game. Now, they want to have a core Spirit Dancer or a SRAM online, but at the end of the day, they have a draw engine. They have access to some pretty impressive stuff, and they choose not to block, which is an interesting choice, having, given that they didn't attack with the Hateful Eidolon.
Sure. Yeah. That makes sense. Now, do you do any sacrificing now? Whoa.
This is a bold move.
Gonna sacrifice one of the Ravenous Squirrels?
Presumably the small one that just came in, yeah.
That's
a lot of triggers,
of triggers.
Wow.
Did you see the screen shake there? Do you know why the screen occasionally shakes like that, Graham?
Well, because it's such an impressive attack that it adds a little flair to it. Yeah.
It did. That one hit with a solid thump. Right?
Absolutely.
And Nonismagic is facing down lethal. Now, okay, sure, there are blockers there. This is, we're not saying we expect the game to end next turn. But there will be blocks that need to be made unless they want to die, right?
Right,
so
absolutely.
That's a good place for Swistak to start taking control of this series, right? We're in game 1. Anything can happen. The whole series is live. But absolutely. If you're Swistak, this is where you want to be, right?
Yeah.
Trail of Crumbs.
I think that was an interesting attack with the Hateful Eidolon. I think I probably would have kept that back.
All right.
I don't know if that's correct, because at the end of the day, gaining 2 life when your opponent may not attack is definitely relevant.
But maybe that's, well, interesting. Because admittedly, Swistak is stuck on 4 lands here. There's not a land drop to make.
Bone Shards is a good card. While there is a Trail of Crumbs in hand, there aren't any other food synergies. Ooh, okay.
You X equals 3, and then Bone Shards. Your opponent's going to draw 2.
Yeah.
This is difficult.
Yeah, no, this is a sticky situation.
Yeah, and admittedly, Swistak is in the driver's seat for sure. Like this, I would want to be on this side of the table right now, right?
Right.
Like, this is, I wouldn't want to trade places. But make no mistake, folks, this very well may be the turn the game hinges on. Oftentimes in Magic the Gathering, you will find that there are specific turns that end up standing out as, when you look back, this was the turn that mattered. And there were a whole bunch of turns that didn't. You top deck a land, you didn't top deck a land, whatever. Those turns didn't matter. But then one turn ends up being the turn that matters. This easily could be it. Giving your opponent cards or not giving your opponent cards, oftentimes can be the thing. Because keep in mind, nonismagic, 3 lands in play, letting them draw a couple of cards. Because, of course, Hateful Eidolons trigger for one another. So one Hateful Eidolon just died and came back, but they both trigger. So that's 2 cards. This is scary. I'm sorry. This is scary, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So now they're going to choose to sacrifice the food token. I think now it's a risky time to do it because you can't pay for the Trail of Crumbs activation.
Agreed.
Or the Trail of Crumbs trigger.
So clearly they're doing it because they wanted a land drop.
Right, and they didn't hit it, unfortunately. That
And they
Witch's
didn't get
Oven
there.
could be relevant though.
Well, and that was a treasure, not a food, right? So no Trail of Crumbs, right?
Oh, was it? I apologize. Yeah,
you're fine. But like, still, without hitting that land drop, suddenly nonismagic is looking a lot safer. Like, admittedly, she's still behind. I would still want to be on this side of the table if you're like, hey, pick right now, right?
sure.
But oh boy, that's a good one.
Okay. Now, if you're going for the Thoughtseize, what are you pulling out of this hand? That's a tough one, I think.
I would be chagrined to be the one on the Thoughtseize side.
Nice. Right. And for flashing the nice, because what do you? I mean,
yeah, I see. For me, I think it would be the bone shards because I think it's going to be the most flexible. Yeah. Okay. Sure.
okay.
The most flexible piece of removal, especially knowing you're probably going to have to use removal multiple times because the Hateful Eidolon is demanding it. Getting rid of the more flexible. Oh,
there's SRAM.
Boy, that's a scary one.
Yeah. Now, and they still have 1 mana up.
Yeah.
In the Godless Shrine, so who knows if they have a follow up?
Sure. Yeah, this is tough.
Yeah.
If there's another aura in nonismagic's hand, things may have gone south. It doesn't look like there is. Well, if nonismagic starts getting the lands they've been yearning for now, that's not a boon now.
Right.
You need at least 1 aura right now, this upcoming turn, because as it is, you're in tough shape. This is difficult. Admittedly, I don't know. I'm not sure I want to be on Swistak's side of the board anymore. This is looking ugly. Admittedly, I think the Meat Hook Massacre gonna come down, do some cleanup. I would go, I think, X equals 3, if it were me, right? And then attack in with some 2/2s, right? The problem is, nonismagic then is going to draw a whole bunch of cards to compensate again.
Right.
Are you better off after that happens? Because admittedly, now that you have the fatal whoa.
What?
Yeah.
That's a
They're doing
move.
It. Well, I mean, you've got to get enough for the Meat Hook Massacre to count.
Sure.
Right?
But they didn't have they did have the treasure token as well.
That's fair, but you have to use that for the fatal push, right? Because you've got to clean up the Hateful Eidolon afterwards, I think. Folks, that was a lot of cards.
Indeed.
You remember way back when nonismagic was empty-handed and it was all looking up for Swistak?
Yeah.
This is a very precarious position.
Absolutely.
You want to be excited. Your opponent's a 2. You've got a Meat Hook Massacre down. If nonismagic can gain some life and do something with the million cards they just drew, this game is not over. Admittedly, I don't know what's in nonismagic's hand. So if you showed me Swistak's side and showed me what I see now of nonismagic, I would still pick Swistak's side, right?
Right.
You've got a 7/7. You've got a Meat Hook Massacre down. You've got a backup Meat Hook Massacre. Right? But make no mistake. Oh.
Ooh, Core Spirit Dancer. That might change things.
That. Oh my goodness. And a Sentinel's Eyes. Remember, Core Spirit Dancer not only draws you a card when you cast an aura, It also gets +2/+2 for every aura attached to it. Suddenly, 7/7 isn't looking so big. Admittedly, nonismagic certainly does not want to have to chump block with Core Spirit Dancer. Can they follow Core Spirit Dancer up with another enchantment? One more enchantment and things start getting interesting, right?
Absolutely.
The problem is, what happens if the lands that nonismagic almost certainly drew, they drew like 6 cards. What happens if those lands are tapped lands? Oh boy, okay, all right.
Ooh.
Dead weight. Okay. Oh my goodness.
Or another Sentinel's Eyes. Okay.
None of this is life gain.
Correct.
Meat Hook Massacre can drain people's life here, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, so all of a sudden attacking with the squirrel is no longer an option. And given nonismagic's hand, I would be really, I mean, well, actually at this point, so what Swistak is hoping to do is be able to block the Core Spirit Dancer, which is not a guarantee given that Angelic Gift is in that Auras list. So being able to block the Spirit Dancer for 1 turn, sacrifice the squirrel to the Witch's Oven, drain nonismagic for 1, and then play out Luris and potentially sack her immediately to the Witch's Oven just to ping for that last, that last point of life. That's the line that I can see.
If
to
there's
victory.
no way of gaining life, which
if there's no way of gaining life, which is a big if. Yeah.
But like, man, this is right down to it, folks. Right down to it. Let's see, what other ways can they gain life? Angelic Gift can make it fly.
Mm-hmm.
Rune of Sustenance gives lifelink, which doesn't matter a whole lot unless it also comes with flying, because they'll just sacrifice in response and no damage will be dealt. So the path for nonismagic is Rune of Sustenance and either Sajiri Shelter to give it protection, or flying, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yep. That makes sense. All right. Well, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
It is. Do they have any outs?
At this point, I'm not sure. I think Swistak is going to be taking away game 1, especially thanks to the Meat Hook triggers.
Because now it's past combat, right?
Right.
I don't think there's outs. I guess Swistak might not see it, but we've seen Swistak play some pretty solid Magic today.
Oh, absolutely.
I'd be surprised if they're, Okay. Well, they're going to go about it the safe way. Instead of just immediately sacrificing the Luris, they're going to cast something out of the bin with the Luris. But the outcome is still the same. Sacrifice the Ravenous Squirrel, do a little draining, and boy, oh boy, that came right down to it.
Wow.
Good grief.
Yeah, there have definitely been some nail biters today, and that was definitely one of them.
Yeah, holy cow. That is wild. Okay, so that said, how do you feel about sideboarding for this matchup? Obviously, Wilt seems good.
Yep. Yeah, I'd say Wilt is definitely solid in here. Knowing that they're running Luris and all those types of, that kind of plan, the Soul Guide Lantern seems intriguing here. I don't know if that's. I don't know if I'd want to worry about graveyard hate, knowing that Luris is really their only access to the graveyard, whereas, focusing more on removal seems to make sense. So how about you? What are your thoughts?
This is tough. For me, I feel like the Thought Seizes are fine. Like getting those key cards, I don't know that I would prioritize it as much because they have so many redundant copies, whether it's Core Spirit Dancer or whether it's Saram, or whether
Mhm.
it's even Hateful Eidolon, they all kind of act similarly. So being able to strip one doesn't, like, there's still, the chances of drawing it are still pretty good. I can respect taking or going ahead and getting a hold of that, but I would certainly, the Outlaw or Outland Liberator and the Wilt, I can't live without here, I don't think, right?
Yeah. No, I
And
think that's correct.
making a place for the Thought Seizes does make sense to me. You're not likely to lose. Like, it's not likely to come down to a 1-point game very often. Like, if they're either attacking with a 12-12 flying, or, you know, they're not attacking at all. So I don't think paying the couple of life with Thought Seize is that big of a deal.
Mm-hmm.
And they're pretty much always going to have cards in hand. So
pretty much.
it's going to be less of a dead card than normal. It is tough, though. You're essentially you are a very solid synergy deck. This sacrifice deck, actually, it really almost becomes a combo deck almost, right? It's still a synergy deck, but like, you are leaning into this synergy for the vast majority of your wins really heavily. So in the same way that Splinter Twin used to be able to bolt, snap, bolt you, like, and attack with a 2 on Ambush Viper every now and then, that's not your path to victory. This one, you're sacrificing things to get the win. So you can't dilute it too much, right?
Right.
There's only so much you can do, right?
There's only so much you can do. Absolutely.
So here we are.
Keeping the one-lander.
Are you this brave?
Oh, absolutely not.
Me neither. Me neither. Swistak undoubtedly thinking, I'm up a game. And I get a turn 1 Thoughtseize. If I draw lands, I can close out the series right now. If not, I go back to sideboard, I end up on the play. Not a big deal. Right?
Yeah.
And I don't know. I still don't think I'm that brave.
Yeah, I don't know that I trust the shuffler enough to go for that. Now, do you Thoughtseize the Thoughtseize? And deny them the opportunity to see your hand here?
It's so contextual, though. We don't know what they have in their hand. If
Sure.
You've got 2 core spirit dancers or 2 core spirit dancer analogs and 2 auras, you don't care about Thoughtseize.
Right.
Like, hit me. Take what you want. You're not going to know what's in my hand next turn anyway, because I'm going to draw 250 cards, right? So
right.
it doesn't really matter. Admittedly, if you've only got one of those synergy pieces, or you maybe you've got multiple of those synergy pieces, but you don't have enchantments, then it gets a lot harder. See, this is what I'm talking about. I'm not.
Yeah.
You lose the Sentinel's Eyes here, but it can come right back. So it's essentially 2, right? At some point.
Right.
So I'm not that worried. I think if I'm Thought Seizing here, I think I take the Sejiri Shelter, though.
Yeah. Well, because getting rid of SRAM or the Core Spirit Dancer is a terrible idea with that claim just right there. Yeah, so Sejiri Shelter definitely makes sense.
Yeah. Given the context of this situation, I might have taken the Thoughtseize, though. I mean, I absolutely can get behind why they elected to Thoughtseize away, another card. Because, again, their key synergies are all in place. Oh, boy.
Oof, that is not a land.
But it wasn't a land for nonismagic either.
True. There's the land. All right.
Okay. Oh, boy. All right. Well, we have a game. It's a game. Suddenly, whatever else happens, it's a game. Because Core Spirit Dancer is online, and Swistak can't remove it. Right?
Right.
Not yet, at least. Right? And Swistak, though, did get the second land, does have Trail of Crumbs. So, theoretically, lands will happen. We're going to play Magic here. How quickly can they grow that Core Spirit Dancer and get it out of range of Meat Hook Massacre and ruin your life? Well, let's find out.
Let's find out, exactly. I have a feeling it's going to be pretty darn quick.
I think so.
Yeah, Core Spirit Dancer is one of those cards. Every time I see it go off, I'm just thinking, holy cow, it draws cards and grows. My goodness.
Yeah. I remember for quite a while, I played just casual kitchen table Magic with, my brother-in-law and my brother and some stuff like that. And we all had we tried to keep our decks as equivalent power level as possible. And
sure.
the rule was no enchantment decks, like no aura decks, right? Because it was so easy to just get them to go off and on a budget. And of course, you know, again, I always build wacky decks and stuff, but
Sure.
you know, it's just, you know, give me 12 cents and a core spirit dancer, and you know, things are getting out of hand, you know.
Oh, for sure.
So
Well, I mean, great example. Deadweight. That's, you know, that's what, a 3-cent card that nobody thinks anything of. You know, it's lining bulk bins right now,
Yep.
and sure enough, in this deck, it's capable of doing a lot. Same with Kai's Ghost Form. You know, we were talking about that being such an incredibly powerful card on a Hateful Eidolon or with a Lurrus in play.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a common that nobody cared about from War of the Spark.
Yeah,
The-
it's essentially a forgotten card, right? You know, like,
Right.
but no, not here, not here.
Exactly. In this
This is-
archetype, all of a sudden, it can really
Now,
sing. Yeah.
It is notable, Core Spirit Dancer did not grow this turn.
Yes.
So, what do you fatal push?
That's a really
Right?
good question. I think I'm going after the Spirit Dancer here.
You
I
think you
I'm,
still go after the Spirit Dancer? I mean, admittedly,
I think so.
you don't
Yeah.
have to do anything right now.
Yeah.
But I personally would be. You know about Claim to Fame, right? So you
True.
know whatever
Yeah.
you kill is coming back, potentially with haste, and it's not big yet. So you're not getting any of that. I don't know. I want to say 2-for-1 value, but of course, Spirit Dancer ruins that. You know?
Right.
But
Yeah.
you know, you want to try and tax their resources and stuff, but you know, and losing treasures when you're stuck on mana it's rough.
Yeah.
Oh
No
boy,
problem.
would you pass the turn though?
I don't know about that. I mean, they were tapped out. Yeah.
I mean, you know, they've only got one of their Sajiri shelters, so admittedly, there's not a lot of protection spells. But what happens if they just put an aura on the stack and draw a couple of cards? Are you going to respond?
Yeah, I think
Everybody-
the idea is let them buff up the core Spirit Dance and then fatal push it before the attack. But yeah, the number of cards they're going to draw there,
'Cause,
even if
they're
they don't get
drawing
in for the damage, it's still, they're getting plenty of value.
Yeah, and I mean, for every card, like for every enchantment that gets put on the stack, you're just falling that much farther behind in card advantage. Now, admittedly, you've got your Trail of Crumbs. We've talked about it. That card is a hero, right? That's
Oh yeah.
But you have to pay the iron price for that,
Mhm.
right? You pay 1 mana every time you activate that Trail of Crumbs. You'll know Core Spirit Dancer and SRAM just do their thing. There's no paying, you know, extra costs here. This is
Right.
just do the thing. Wow, holding on to the fatal push. Gonna hold on to the treasure now?
You're gonna hold on to the
You're
trigger and
committed,
the fatal
right?
push for the Meat Hook Massacre, presumably. But I mean, they're not gonna be able to. They're not gonna be able to get it big enough to get. They're not gonna be able to hit the Meat Hook Massacre large enough to get rid of the Spirit Dancer this turn. Although they could Meat Hook for 2, and then still fatal push.
Yeah.
That's
Sure.
an option.
All right. All
The
right.
Liberator could do some work potentially.
Well, all right. So, all right. Now
Alright,
what?
there's the
Now,
thing.
how do you feel? You just pass the turn back to the Lurrus player with Lurrus in hand and the Core Spirit Dancer in the bin.
I'm certainly not pumping my fists yet. That's for sure. Especially knowing they have the claim there too, which they don't even need to use necessarily in this case, but they're going to.
Yeah. This feels pretty bad to me, right?
Yeah.
Because like, and admittedly, it's easy to fixate on.
Sure.
This is the line I would have taken, and nonismagic easily may have, you know, because clearly has more reps of the deck than I've got. So it's quite possible that there's a plan there. That, you know, Swistak may have also been matched up against this deck before with, you know, with Swistak having as many of these reps in as possible. So waiting on the fatal push may easily have been, I can honestly own up to the fact that I may be missing something, but man, letting them draw that many cards 2 turns in a row, their hand's still full.
Yeah, that hurts. You hate to see an opponent have the upper hand on the board and have that many cards in hand. I mean, that hurts.
Yeah, well, I mean, at this point, no more auras get cast, and nonismagic goes to discard phase.
Right.
I mean, when your opponent's discarding to hand size due to a wealth of additional resources, there are
That's
few
scary.
worse feelings.
Yeah, and here comes the Kaya's ghost form. Down
Yeah.
of course, Spirit Dancer. So now even if there is removal for the Spirit Dancer, it'll just come right back. Now Swistak is
Yeah.
notably sitting on a Wilt.
And that's
So
helpful.
that's something. Yeah.
But the problem is all of these are 1-mana divinations.
Right.
I mean, I have cast my share of divination, folks. Blue,
sure.
2, draw 2. There's no other text. There's no other upside. There's no fancy anything. You get more stuff. But they're drawing they're drawing 2 cards for every one of these. That feels bad.
I mean, this is what card advantage looks like. When we talk about card advantage, this is it. This is
Yeah.
oof.
All right, the screen goes shaking again. Wilt comes out. Where does it go?
I mean, I'm
As
thinking
ghost
hit the
form?
ghost form.
Sure. Does it do enough?
I mean, I'm not happy about it if that's what I'm doing, but I think that's what you got to do.
Because you can do X equals 4, right? But well, no, I guess the Phyrexian Tower. Never mind. Because you can sacrifice the Gill Goose as well.
Right.
So tap the Goose for mana. Then sacrifice it. You know. Ooh.
Right.
I don't know about that because then yeah, I mean, I guess this is fine. Yeah, I agree. I think they thought they were going to get some priority in there to do other things. See, I would have tapped because the Trail of Crumbs, when you sacrifice food, you pay an extra mana, then you can do the Trail of Crumbs stuff. The problem is, and draw cards, right? But the problem is they didn't give themselves time in there, right?
Right.
All right.
Yeah, so there was missed value, and when your opponent has gained that much card advantage, you can't afford to miss value.
No. Well, especially when you know, like, Swistak did not know about the extra core Spirit Dancers already in hand.
That's
but
true.
They did know about the Lurrus in hand. So they knew this turn, the worst case scenario is, I mean, the best case scenario for you is just Lurrus, core Spirit Dancer, cast a 1-drop out of the bin, sigh, maybe shed a tear, and then hope your opponent draws into nothing, right? Like, because that's the best case scenario. This is on board. This is this is information that you've already got. This is worse.
Yeah, no, this is definitely not good.
Clearly
Keep in mind, this is only game 2.
This is game 2. That's true.
So Swistak does have 1 game down. It's looking like nonismagic is going to have. I mean, I'd say that they're favored at this point. I think that's fair to say. So it'll be interesting to see how game 3 shapes up if we end up seeing that.
And it's worth noting. Remember, folks, Swistak was braver than either of us. Kept a 1-lander.
That's
right?
true.
That was this hand.
Actually, yeah. And I mean, they're sitting on 6 mana here. So clearly, you know, maybe keeping that was the right call.
Okay. Dead weight. You don't have the mana to sacrifice the Liberator. That stinks.
Indeed.
Admittedly, I think it's good for us, folks, because I think this puts nonismagic, like, you know, firmly in the driver's seat. Like, if they weren't already there, right? Like this, it's going to be difficult to come back from Swistak. As a matter of fact, I'm struggling to envision a scenario where there's anything that can be done. Don't forget, Lurrus is still in hand, right? Oh, well, and Flying comes out. Yeah, this is all over but the shouting.
Right.
But this is still just game 2, as you pointed out.
Yeah.
Right? So do you think you change anything in the board coming back now that you're on the play? Remember,
I don't know.
Did a fair amount of boarding, and we talked about how this sacrifice deck is a synergy deck, but it's leaning almost towards combo, right? You know, you're leaning on this 2-card cat oven combo pretty heavily, right? And then all the synergy pieces that lean into that. But there aren't too many games you win that don't involve that.
Right. No, absolutely.
And as we pointed out earlier, you know, the Cauldron Familiar and a Witch's Oven both had to come out that game.
Yeah, they did get sideboarded out. So here they're sideboarding out down to 2 Meat Hook Massacres. Losing a Deadly Dispute. Looks like they were debating over whether or not 4 Thoughtseize still made sense.
Yeah, I don't know.
Removing a Wilt and the Liberator, which I think are interesting. Interesting choices. I can actually appreciate that because those are individual spot removal for enchantments. The problem is the auras aren't really the problem. It's the creatures that the auras are attached to that you really need to address.
Agreed.
Because any individual aura isn't providing a ton of value to, you know, as you said, these are 1 mana spells in a lot of situations. So removing one of the, spending a whole card just to remove, say, a Sentinel's Eyes or a Kai's Ghost. I mean, Kai's Ghost Form can be a big one, but, you know, you end up not getting as much value as you really want out of that. So I can appreciate favoring some other removal options over those.
Yeah. Now, 2 Meat Hook Massacres is all that remains. And I've got to be honest with you. I agree with that decision as well. It's tough.
Yeah.
When you're expecting the Core Spirit Dancer to be a 5 toughness creature, how long is it going to take to kill that?
Yeah.
You know?
No, yeah, you're not gonna, it's going to outgrow the Meat Hook very, very quickly.
For sure, yeah. Now, what about something like Mortality Spear?
I'm not mad at that. Yeah, I think Mortality Spear can be pretty darn useful, actually.
That's kind of what I was thinking too. Eventually, Swistak ended up agreeing with us, so
yeah,
it's kind of a moot point. But you know, nonismagic, absolutely ready as well. Surprisingly enough, Swistak does elect to take the play and keeps turn 1 as well. How do you feel about that? 2 ovens in your opening hand, huh?
2 ovens in the opening hand and 2 squirrels. I'm not mad at that. Again, I'm just not mad at it. What can I say? So what do you start with? You mean you have all the greatest, I mean, the greatest hits on your 1-drop slot are now in your hand. So what do you play out first?
Well, I think I would be greedy here and lose the game because of what I would do. Because in my experience, the few times I've played Cat Oven, it's always correct to play Witch's Oven turn 1. Otherwise, they invariably have Inquisition of Kozilek or Thoughtseize or whatever, and they strip it out of your hand, and then you lose. Since you've got 2, I would go with the Ravenous Squirrel as well. I in this case, I agree with Swistak, and you know that's flattering to me because I'm confident Swistak is better with this deck than I am. So that's good. But then it also helps that Phyrexian Tower is going to come down and be able to tap for a colorless without sacrificing and be able to cast one of your Witch's Ovens this turn, so that you can still double spell without, you know, struggling.
Right. Oh, that is definitely handy.
All right. So do you start on Shambling Ghast so that you can Phyrexian Tower, sacrifice it, grow this Ravenous Squirrel attack, but not get the extra counter on Ravenous Squirrel? Or do you stay the course, Ravenous Squirrel, Witch's Oven, attack for 1, pray your opponent doesn't dismantle you?
I think that, I mean, that kind of more conservative line, which is ultimately what Swistak ended up going with, that's probably the way I would do it. The other option I was thinking was to play out the Shambling Ghast and then play out the Witch's Oven, sacrifice the Shambling Ghast to create a treasure token, sacrifice the treasure token to play out the other Witch's Oven. That would put a number of counters on the squirrel and you'd be able to get it in for a fair amount of damage, but you wouldn't get the second squirrel online at that point.
Interesting.
So that would have been a very greedy line that I would probably have gone for.
That's fair. But look at this. The entire hand, 1-drops. All of them.
Yeah, nothing but 1-drops.
Every card.
And 3 lands down. That's feels great.
We are living the efficient life. That's what's happening here.
Absolutely.
All right. Thinking about making that line. Doing it this way so they can spend the mana. Surely. I mean, whatever you do, it has to involve Fader Push this turn, right?
Oh, absolutely. No, SRAM's got to go. They might have some recursion, but if they do, I want to make them spend it. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. All right. Real quick, folks. Real quick. The comic book store.
Absolutely.
The comic book store. They're
Comic
putting
book
this
store
whole
dot
tournament on.
TCG
We're in the
Playboard.com.
finals. Both of these people are coming away with money. Real money. That they didn't have to give up anything for. Because of the comic book store. So, sure enough, doing a little sacrificing to grow the Ravenous Squirrels, trying to get aggressive, does just... Folks, Swistak looks like they have a card in hand, but they don't. They're empty-handed. They've put their
Indeed.
cards on the table. Nonismagic has 6 cards in hand. And is staring down a pretty frightening board. So let's see. Oh.
There's the Core Spirit Dancer. If there's anything that could turn this around quickly, that's it. With the white cartouche coming down, creating a token, buffing it up to a 3/5. All of a sudden, those 2/2 squirrels aren't looking quite as impressive.
They are not. Ooh.
But
Hold
Utility
on.
Spear. Huh. That's a draw.
It is. It is. Interesting. So the deal is, though, your Ravenous Squirrels can sacrifice those treasures. Right?
Right.
To draw cards. So firing off treasures right now is not free. Right? This is...
Right.
your opponent's going to have card advantage stuff online sooner or later. Oh boy. So sure enough, they are going to go for it. Do a little bit of gaining some life. Do a little bit of putting counters on. They're going aggressive. Swistak wants to end the game. All right.
Absolutely. And I mean,
go.
they're representing 8 damage on the board. That's, I mean, at this point in the game, that's pretty darn impressive. I mean, these are 1 mana 4/4s.
Yeah. They haven't printed very many of those in Magic's history.
No, not very many at all. Usually
Yeah.
they come with a downside. This one comes with all kinds of upside.
Yeah. And this is the gift that just keeps on giving,
Oh, absolutely.
All right. Well, folks, Nonismagic, they're in some trouble.
Yes.
If they can't do something dramatic this turn, if their play is add Luris to hand, I think Swistak is going to bring this home. I'm sorry. It's just the way it is. Okay. I mean, that's a good card in the matchup.
Absolutely. I don't know that it's a good card in the situation, but it is a great card in the matchup.
Yeah, and I mean, it does have lifelink.
True.
So if there's a way of reliably growing it, and there's the promise of help down the road, but this clock is ticking.
Oh, yeah. Big time.
What are you going to do? Right?
Yeah, I don't know.
So, man, and Nonismagic also, they are deep in the tank, and I don't blame them, probably because their options aren't great, I would assume. But that they're not. Oh, whoa! Ooh. Oh,
bolting in the Agademe, the Undercrypt.
It's for protection.
It must be.
But why? Why pay 3 life? Well, I don't know. Maybe there's more to it. Maybe what else could they have? No, it's got to be that, right?
Yeah, if
there aren't that many
shelter. Because the removal that they have is primarily at sorcery speed by virtue of being enchantments.
Yeah. No, that's it. That's the only instance, actually, even in the 75. Well, that takes the guesswork out of our part.
I suppose it does.
But, you know, that doesn't make you feel any better about it. So
No, that 3
Noma's
damage
Magic
is
clearly doing a lot
painful.
of math.
Yeah.
They elected to pay 3 life so that they can block 4, potentially more damage, and then give it protection and gain another life back.
So if you're Swistak, do you sacrifice the blocked squirrel here?
I don't think I would.
Okay. Yeah, it's definitely an aggressive move.
I was gonna say, I think I might sacrifice a Witch's Oven though.
Okay. Nothing wrong with that.
Having more cards to cast, but also getting more damage through. Like, what are you gonna do with your mana otherwise?
Yeah, I mean, Polaris to hand. That's the only other thing I could think of.
Yeah, but I don't know. That doesn't. I wouldn't say that feels. That would not. You're happy with where you're at in this game, but that would not be a satisfying turn.
Right.
Right now, right?
No, I'm inclined to agree.
Sure enough.
Yep, there's
Okay.
the shelter. Yep, sure enough.
All right. Nonismagic, folks. They are.
They're hanging on.
Still alive. Ooh, into Thoughtseize. That's rough.
Potentially. Yeah.
I mean, okay. Hold on. Hold on.
Rams followed by a Sentinel's Eyes, which is going to give the Hushbringer vigilance.
And draw a card.
And draw a card, yeah.
I mean, nobody's happy about this scenario. Well, I mean, okay. Swistak is pretty happy about the scenario, but like, you're not excited about this. But if you were going to have a chance, this needed to happen.
Right, absolutely.
I don't think I Thoughtseize here, right? If they have Sejiri Shelter, they just cast it, and it doesn't matter. You just spewed off a Thoughtseize that could be valuable later if somehow they get themselves out of this.
Right.
So do you then go for the same play? Do you sacrifice a Witch's Oven?
You can go for the same play here. You could also throw the Goose.
Because you could also, you could pop the Goose down. You could sacrifice the Goose with Phyrexian Tower if you want to get aggressive.
Yeah.
And sacrifice the food as well with the mana you spend. So you can do some serious business. Oh, crud. Hushbringer.
Yeah, Hushbringer does prevent the food. I had forgotten about that. Yeah.
Yeah, it turns out Hushbringer is a good card.
Yep, absolutely. Now, at this point, Nonismagic has to block both.
Yeah.
There's no choice. If they don't, the Witch's Oven can sacrifice the Gilded Goose, and that's game.
Okay, well, yeah, you're just that on board now. Because they can also Ravenous Squirrel sacrifice
I'm sorry, they do gain the life off the Hushbringer. So.
All right.
Yep, no, perfect.
Yep. So then they can use the other Ravenous Squirrel too if they wanted to. To sacrifice the Gilded Goose. So yeah, this is
wow. That was an intense end.
That was holy crud. There was some serious magic that happened there though. And you know, I gotta say, Swistak earned that. That was a one-lander. That they're brave enough to keep, made it a game. Nonismagic definitely picked it up, put it right back down. Was able to bring home game 2, brought it all the way into the game or to the third game. This was a heck of a finals. I'll admit, considering the final game felt like a little bit of a beatdown.
Like, a little bit.
maybe exciting isn't the word I would choose to describe the final game of the tournament, but I can tell you, I would not hesitate to use that word for the tournament as a whole. This has been a great tournament.
Absolutely. No, I can't tell you how many times, I mean, well, you guys have all seen our, reactions as we've been watching these games. No, there have been all kinds of twists and turns, and this has been absolutely delightful. I got to say, I can't think of a better way to stay up until midnight on a Sunday night. Honestly, this has been an absolute delight.
Unfortunately, future me, that has a full-time job, will be cursing current me But holy
Just that.
crud,
I'm right there
I
with you.
have had a blast. It has been a glorious time. But I do want to mention, folks, that this stream, we did not stream. Graham and I did not stream for 10 hours and 18 minutes. We streamed for about half of that, give or take. The first half was from our good friend, Ziggy Sawdust, and our other good friend, Strider Stone. They cast the first half of this tournament, and holy crud, I can't tell you how thankful I am, because after 10 hours, I would have not provided very good commentary, I don't think. Right? That would have been pretty rough to do.
Oh, sure. No, it would be. Yeah, there would have been a lot of dead air, a lot of blank stares. Yeah.
And they did
absolutely.
a bang up job, if you ask me. I think the first half of this tournament was really, really good. So I'd like to thank Ziggy Sawdust and Strider Stone. I also want to point out one last time, folks. I know we beat this a little bit. Like, this is a free tournament. The comic book store put up all the prize money for this tournament. Help them out, folks. Help them out. If you're going to be buying Magic cards anyway, like, yeah, whatever. Just some Commander staples, a couple of bucks here or there. Buy your dollar, rares from them. Every little bit helps. And particularly for your local gaming stores and stuff like that, like, it matters. And I'm not trying to, talk you into abandoning yours, but they're just like anybody else. And these folks are doing really good work here, and they're trying to help people out. Similarly, our good friend Hollywood Pizza, I'm telling you, the man is selfless and constantly working hard to put on a tournament 3 weekends a month, folks. Believe it or not, Hollywood Pizza has a full-time job. Like, this is not he's not sitting on a beach in the Caymans popping bonbons in his mouth. This is, this takes a lot of time and a lot of effort, a lot of organization, and he does it selflessly. So we really want to say thank you to our good friend Hollywood Pizza for that, as well as all of behind-the-scene folks. We mentioned this a couple of times now, but there are a number of moderators and organizers and things all behind the scenes that are working tirelessly to help put this thing on as well. And this is not a high-budget project, folks. This is we're all hanging out, watching Magic, and talking about it. Right. So this is, nobody's being paid for this. So you got to know these people are just giving up their time to do something fun, do something cool to help you, right? Help them too. Drop follows to those folks who were doing that stuff. Drop your follow here, drop your prime on Hollywood Pizza. Don't let Bezos keep his money, right? Keep in mind, last couple of announcements. There's 2 more tournaments this month, the 12th and the 19th. So make sure to sign up for those as well. Also free tournaments, also cash prizes. You can't go wrong. I would also, we've done a lot of gabbing. 5 hours, almost 6 hours worth of gabbing, you and I.
Yeah, something like that.
But I've got to shout out my good friend Hamhawks42.
Oh, thank you so much, John. Well, and John here is also a fellow streamer. Please check him out.